On the edge of a quiet meadow stood a tall oak tree, its branches sprawling wide under the golden sun. Perched at its highest point was a crow named Cedric. Cedric was an observant bird, often watching the world below with a curious eye. One day, Cedric noticed a girl sitting beneath his tree. Her name was Lila, and she had been coming to the meadow every day for a week, her sketchbook lying untouched on her lap. Her shoulders slumped, and her gaze wandered, but she never seemed to draw. Curious, Cedric flew down to a lower branch, close enough to speak, but far enough not to startle her. "Why don't you draw, little human?" he asked, his voice as raspy as the wind through dry leaves. Lila gasped and looked up. "A talking crow?" "Only when it's important," Cedric replied, tilting his head. "Now, why are you sitting here with that blank book?" Lila hesitated, her fingers brushing the edges of her sketchbook. Finally, she sighed. "It's no use. Everyone else is better than me. My friend Clara paints so beautifully, and my brother Henry can draw anything perfectly. My drawings look like a child scribbles next to theirs." Cedric let out a sharp caw, startling her again. "Nonsense. You compare yourself to Clara and Henry, as if their talents erase yours. Why do humans always measure themselves against one another? Do you see me wishing I were a swan or a falcon?" Lila frowned. "But it's different. Swans are graceful, and falcons are strong. Don't you ever wish you could be like them?" Cedric shook his head, his black feathers glinting in the sunlight. "Never. Swans may glide across lakes, and falcons may pierce the sky, but neither can do what I do. I'm a crow, and I excel at being one. I'm clever, resourceful, and unafraid of challenges. Why would I trade that for anything else?" Lila looked down at her sketchbook, tracing a finger over the blank page. "But what if I'm not good at anything?" Cedric flapped his wings, hopping closer. "You're good at being you. That's a start. But if you doubt yourself, let me tell you a story." Lila's eyes brightened slightly. "A story?" "Yes," Cedric said, puffing his chest. "Once, there was a crow who envied the sparrows. They had lovely songs, while he could only caw. He decided he would learn to sing like them. So he practiced and practiced, mimicking their melodies. But no matter how hard he tried, his voice couldn't match theirs. One day, the sparrows mocked him for his poor attempts at singing. Humiliated, the crow flew away. As he perched on a fence, sulking, he noticed a farmer nearby. The farmer had left his shiny tools unattended. Using his wit, the crow swooped down, took one of the tools, and hid it in a tree hollow. When the farmer returned, he was so puzzled that he laughed and called his children to see the clever crow. From that day on, the crow stopped trying to be like the sparrows. Instead, he embraced his cleverness and became the most admired bird in the meadow. Even the sparrows grew to respect him. Lila chuckled softly. "So, the crow was special in his own way." "Exactly," Cedric replied. "You may not be Clara or Henry, but you're Lila. Your art doesn't have to be like anyone else's. It only needs to be yours." Lila hesitated, then opened her sketchbook. Slowly, she began to draw. Cedric watched as shapes and lines emerged, messy at first, but growing more confident with each stroke. "What do you think?" she asked, holding up the sketch. Cedric studied it carefully. The drawing wasn't perfect, but it was full of life and emotion. "I think it's wonderful. It's yours, and that's what makes it special." A smile spread across Lila's face, and for the first time in days, she felt a spark of pride. "Thank you, Cedric. I'll try to remember that." Cedric gave a satisfied caw and flew back to his perch. As he settled among the leaves, he called out, "Remember, little human, the crow doesn't wish to be the swan. Be proud of who you are, and the world will admire your song." From that day forward, Lila stopped comparing her art to others. She let her unique perspective shine, and in doing so, found joy not in perfection, but in creation.